Hello everyone and welcome back to the 2020 Pokémon Regional Championships here in Bochum. We are moving into the second from last round of the tournament, going into round 8, and we have two players that we've not seen too much of on the stream before. We have Ernest Azanza and Thomas Gravouille playing in this round.
So, these players, as you just said, we've not seen them a lot, but I think I've actually played one of these players a few years ago, and it didn't go too well, so I'm definitely going to expect him to really play his best there.
Who was it that you played against?
Thomas Gravouille.
Okay.
I played him in round 1, and the tournament started 0-1 for me.
That's a shame. It's a shame every time that happens. Going 0-1 is hard enough, and then, what happens in the tournament from there, well, sometimes it can go back the other way, but sometimes it's just a downhill struggle.
Definitely. So now, how are you experiencing this VGC 20 now?
Well, it's been really good. We've seen lots of interesting and different teams, and we're seeing something different and interesting here. We're seeing Pikachu making an appearance.
Yeah, so one of the Pokemon that actually can go for a Gigantamax form.
Yeah, and bring out that G-Max Volt Crash into the field. Going to be able to paralyze both Pokemon on his opponent's side of the field, so maybe something that's quite critical to his game plan coming in. But does look like he's been able to get a few World Championship invites, Thomas, here in day one of the 2016 and 2018 World Championships, as well as a top 16 regional performance in Dublin.
Yeah, so, he's gone to the World Championships here twice. That definitely means he's kind of a consistent player, kind of playing since 2016 here.
Yeah, and you've got to be able to earn all of those points over a season, and not everybody's able to go to every tournament, so being able to pick up enough points from something, your local tournaments and maybe these regional tournaments is so important to be able to do, as well as going to those international tournaments as well.
Yeah, also a mon that I noticed here is again that Togekiss. I think we've seen it on stream a lot, and it did a lot of good things.
Yeah, it did, but a Pokemon that we haven't seen much of is Excadrill in this tournament.
Yeah, definitely something I expected to see a lot. Definitely when I, played on ranked battles myself, I ran into it constantly. And definitely, now with that max steel spike, it can do a lot of damage to a lot of different mons.
Yeah, exactly. And Ernest here up on the screen with a completely different team coming out here, but also no stranger to playing competitively over the years. Some really good performances in the 2018 season, so a couple of years ago now, but certainly relevant in this format, with a regional championship finals as well as a day one invitation to the World Championships.
Yeah, something I definitely noticed is that there are Manatan there.
Yeah, we've seen a little bit of that previously in the format. I think we saw that in maybe round 3, I think it was, if memory serves. Two players that were playing an Inteleon mirror match. Maybe it was round 4, actually, come to think of it. But it does so much damage to its opponent, so something that Thomas is going to have to really watch out for.
Yeah, so what do you like to see come out as a lead? Maybe that Whimsicott, the Manachan, and just try to go for Tailwind and immediately do a lot of damage?
Well, I think it's always an option, but you've got the potential here for Ludicolo to maybe set up some rain on its own here. Doesn't have a natural rain setter alongside it, so not going for something like a rain abuse strategy in his team, but maybe able to set it up himself with that Dynamax form coming out there, and various forms of Tailwind with potentials for max airstreams coming out from Togekiss, and we've seen Tailwind coming out from Whimsicott a lot, so lots of different options here.
Yeah, also kind of noticing that Snorlax here, quite a slow Pokemon here, not really a Trick Room user here on its team. Do you think it's gonna come to the games here?
Well, there's not a common Trick Room user on Ernst's team, but there is a Pokemon that uses it occasionally, and that's that Whimsicott. So something that's probably a little bit niche, a little bit sidelined as a, I'm going to call it a sleeper pick. It's not something that players really opt for commonly, but is there to watch out for. And certainly, when you see a Snorlax on your opposing side of the field, you've got to think about Trick Room being an option.
Yeah, so here on Thomas's side we have that Togekiss, Pikachu, Gyarados, Excadrill, Conkeldurr and Chandelure. And on Ernest's side we have the Arcanine, Snorlax, that Darmanitan, Whimsicott, Togekiss and that Ludicolo.
Yeah, so as we were saying before, there's various forms of speed control available for both teams. Really, I want to see this Gigantamax Pikachu come out and use that Volt Crash onto Ernst's side of the field and really showcase what it can do now that it gets its Gigantamax form. Conversely, we're going to be seeing all of Thomas's team under pressure from things like that Darmanitan. That Snorlax is going to be a big thing if it manages to get its belly drum set up and really attack into Thomas's team. I correct myself. And maybe we'll see a combination of that Snorlax coming out with redirection from Togekiss, maybe Intimidate support from Arcanine, and using it, protecting it, and making sure it's dealing out those big bits of damage.
Yeah, also here on Thomas's side I kind of noticed that Conkeldurr and Chandelure are kind of two quite slow Pokemon. It tends to kind of really like itself around Trick Room.
Yeah, exactly. You've got the option for Chandelure to set up Trick Room, certainly, and Conkeldurr, known for being very slow, very bulky, and very fast. Some great poses coming out on these trainer cards here as we go into Game 1 of Round 8 here in Bochum.
Yeah, I'm really excited what these two players decided to go for as a lead. So on Ernest's side, we do see that Whimsicott together with the Darmanitan.
Yeah, we do, and Togekiss and Pikachu coming out for Thomas.
Yeah, I really like seeing that Pikachu here.
yeah. I mean, it's in a potentially really good position to get that Gigantamax form going. That Darmanitan is one way that we've seen to really dispatch a Togekiss and make sure that Togekiss gets knocked out. Something that Togekiss is known for taking a lot of hits, and certainly in combination with that Follow Me, it certainly has to in this format. So Darmanitan, a real option for removing Togekiss from the field, but if Togekiss does opt for that Follow Me, Pikachu will be free to Dynamax, potentially free to get that Volt Crash out onto the field and make sure that any Tailwind that Whimsicott brings out is negated.
Yeah, Togekiss on Thomas's side here switching out. It's going to be replaced by this red Gyarados here. It's going to intimidate here the Darmanitan and the Whimsicott. I think definitely a good player, kind of trying to lower the attack set of that Darmanitan. But we also are immediately going to see a Dynamax come out, which I believe is on Thomas' side, meaning that set is going to be that Pikachu.
Yeah, and here we go. Pikachu going into its Gigantamax form. Absolutely love this. It's such a cute little Pikachu coming out here. Well, let's see what it's going to be doing in this turn.
Yeah, it has the option to Volt Crash, but first we actually see Darmanitan using that U-turn, not wanting to attack into that what used to be a Togekiss, and now it's just gonna go switch out. He now has the option, to switch anything else in that he might brought in the back to more comfortably take maybe those Volt Crashes.
Yeah, and Arcanine coming in and going to be setting up that Intimidate.
Ooh, a beat-up coming out from this Whimsicott together with that Justified. So what's this kind of going to mean in this situation?
Well, Justified is an ability that raises your attack stat every time you get hit by a Dark-type move, and Beat Up is a move that is a Dark-type move that hits as many times as Pokemon that you have left. While Ernst has 4 Pokemon on the field, it's going to be setting up Justified and bringing that Arcanine to 4 stages of increased attack as we see that Volt Crash come out from Pikachu.
It's going to go into that Arcanine, but it's going to take a lot of damage there. Definitely now that's going to be paralyzed. It's in quite a tough position. It's going to be munching away at its berry, which is going to be that citrus berry. So it's just healing back a little bit of damage.
Yeah, it is. And Whimsicott's got the option here to maybe go for a Tailwind, bring the Arcanine back up to a normal speed stat, completely mitigating that paralysis effect. And that may mean that Arcanine is able to outspeed the Gyarados, outspeed the Pikachu, but Ernst has got to be really careful with the amount of damage that Arcanine has taken. Even if it does go into its Dynamax form, going to have to be wary of Thomas taking the KO on it this turn and having all of that justified boost go for nothing.
Yeah, so even if Whimsicott does go for Tailwind, it still has the opportunity to get paralyzed. And actually Pikachu is going to go for that Max Guard, as Tailwind is going to come out from that Whimsicott, just like we were saying. Arcanine is following up with a Flare Blitz into that Max Guard, so Pikachu not going to be taking any damage, as Gyarados is now free to pick up the KO with Waterfall on this Arcanine.
Yeah, fantastic prediction there from Thomas. Understanding that the Gigantamax Pikachu was one of the big threats for Ernst's side of the field, and understanding that Ernst wanted to remove that. Certainly that Flare Blitz we'd expect to pick up the knockout on the Pikachu if it was able to connect, and we don't know if it maybe would have been able to move or not because of the paralysis, but let's assume it would. That Pikachu would have been going down, and Thomas able to very easily pick up the knockout on Arcanine with his Gyarados and make sure that that justified boost that Ernst spent time setting up wasn't actually going to provide any value to him in this game.
So yeah, Ludicolo now joining the field does have that ability to maybe go for a fake out into that Gyarados, kind of trying to negate the damage coming out from Thomas this turn.
Yeah, but he has also got that Tailwind in play, so maybe we'll see a Dynamax coming out here. Exactly what we're seeing from Ernst's side of the field, so probably going to be that Ludicolo moving into its Dynamax form.
Yeah, now it does have that ability to maybe, go for some Max Geysers, try to kind of get the rain off. So next turn he has that Swift Swim ability, meaning that in rain its speed is going to be doubled. And a fake Tears here coming out from Whimsicott into that Pikachu, so now lowering the special defenses by 2 stages, as Ludicolo is now free to go for a Max Geyser into this Pikachu, which is not able to take this.
No, not at all. That's a clean KO there on Pikachu, and really good use of a fake Tears there, making sure that that Dynamax HP increase is absolutely useless.
Yeah, we also revealed actually Ludicolo is that Life Orb variant, as Gyarados goes for a Waterfall into this Whimsicott.
Yeah, so really great turn there for Ernst, making the most use of his Ludicolo and really taking a KO and using that Tailwind that came out from Whimsicott the last turn, wanting to make sure that no more Volt Crushes came out onto the field and Ludicolo wasn't going to be paralyzed. Doesn't matter that the Gyarados is now in rain. Ludicolo does resist water type attacks very well, so the boost that Gyarados gets in return from Thomas's side of the field isn't quite so significant going into this turn. Togekiss coming out from Thomas, going to be able to redirect some big attacks potentially from that Ludicolo. Those Max Geysers coming out will do quite a bit of damage to Togekiss, but likely that Togekiss is going to be able to hang on and maybe take a Moonblast as well in addition to a Max Geyser coming out from Ludicolo. So quite an equal position here, but I think going over to the next turn or two, we're going to see some real KOs coming out really quickly.
Yeah, so Gyarados not really in a position to do a lot of damage in the basic, a grass type and a water and grass type. Just as you were saying, Togekiss is just gonna go for a follow me, redirecting any attack that might have gone into that Gyarados, as Whimsicott goes again for that fake Tears. That definitely really paid out for him last turn. So he's gonna go for another Max Geyser, this time boosted by this rain that the Ludicolo just set up for itself, and it's not able to live this.
No, an absolutely clean KO there on the Togekiss as it returns back to Thomas.
Gyarados here opting to go for a Dragon Dance, maybe trying to outspeed this Ludicolo, but I believe he still has one turn left of Tailwind here on Ernest's side.
Yeah, I believe one turn left, but also we've got that potential we've got in fact that Swift Swim coming out from Ludicolo, so going to remain the fastest thing on the field. The question is does this Gyarados have access to the move Bounce? If it does, it's going to be able to spring up into the air and next turn be able to go into that Ludicolo slot. Ludicolo not known for carrying Protect or any other defensive moves, so likely that Thomas is going to be able to take a knockout there. And Conkeldurr as well coming in is going to be quite crucial for Thomas. Access to some really big priority moves, as well as the ability to maybe do quite a bit of damage to that Ludicolo if it's able to get through the combination of fake tears and Max Geyser coming out from Ernst's side of the field.
Yeah, Thomas, that's definitely something he has to worry about, because in case he gets outspeeded, there's just not much he can really do about, like, double up with -2 stages with, a boosted rain. Ludicolo, definitely a tough thing to deal with. Conkeldurr in this case protecting itself, hoping to not take any damage here, but Max Geyser can go or does go to protect. So we're going to see the target from this Max Geyser here into this Conkeldurr. Good protect here, now able to really just take a little bit of damage.
Yeah, really good turn there as Gyarados replies back with a waterfall on that Whimsicott.
Ooh, at this time is enough to pick up the KO on this Whimsicott, so no more fake tears coming out. Ernest's side, just a Tailwind just ran out, so both players now down to their last 2 Pokemon. Ernest still has that Darmanitan in the back, and I believe he still has one more turn with his Ludicolo with Dynamax.
Yes, I believe. No.
Nope.
Dynamax is going off this turn, so Ludicolo going back into its original state. Something that we didn't mention was Conkeldurr has been burnt by a Flame Orb there, so going to be likely activating that Guts ability. And, that's going to be really crucial going into this turn where Darmanitan, not known for carrying Protect either, as well as not being known for being the most bulky Pokemon, that Conkeldurr likely to be carrying something like Mach Punch, might be able to pick up a clean KO on Darmanitan here so that Gyarados is able to try to KO that Ludicolo.
Yeah, and we are going to see that Mach Punch coming out from Darmanitan, not able to live on here. So Ernest now down to his last Pokemon, which is the Ludicolo. Gyarados here revealing that actually has Crunch, as Ludicolo actually revealed his Energy Ball. Also, Gyarados is just able to lift this, and it's going to be munching away at its berry.
Yeah, so not quite enough power coming out from there from the Ludicolo to take the KO on Gyarados, but not likely to have mattered whether Gyarados was KO'd or not. We just saw the Mach Punch coming out from the Conkeldurr, so Mach Punch, especially at that HP range, was likely to be able to knock out the Ludicolo anyway, so really great positioning from Thomas there, making sure that he left that Conkeldurr to last, used that Mach Punch completely effectively, and it looks like this will be the last turn before the game is closed out.
Yeah, definitely, Ludicolo now facing kind of 2 threats, even though it is in that Swift Swim, it's probably not going to be able to take a KO on this Gyarados. Conkeldurr can just go for a Mach Punch and probably take the KO on that, and Conkeldurr exactly is going to go for that Mach Punch enough to pick up a KO here. Yeah,
and that's game 1 to Thomas here in round 8. Thomas is one step closer to getting into that top cut tomorrow. So going into game 2, we've seen a fairly even game so far between these 2 players, but it looks like Thomas has just got enough to come out at the end with that Conkeldurr and be really able to close out the game. Really not sure if that Darmanitan is a good idea for Ernst to bring to this game, if that's the kind of game plan that Thomas is going for.
Yeah, Darmanitan pretty much getting KO'd by this Guts boosted Conkeldurr, not really doing anything for him. He did lead with it and kind of immediately switch it out and wasn't really able to utilize it. So it might really be a good idea to maybe bring something else going into game 2.
Yeah, and we saw, as you say, we saw the Darmanitan go for the U-turn straight away and not dish out any of the big damage that it's known for. But of course, it did at that time have to avoid that big heat crash coming out from Gigantamax Pikachu there. So there's a little bit of a difficulty there for that Ernst is going to have to deal with. How do we deal with that Pikachu, and then how and stop it using that big Volt Crash on my side of the field? But also, how do we make sure that we're also checking the Gyarados and not letting it set up those Dragon Dances and do all of the other shenanigans that it was doing at the end of that game?
Yeah, I definitely from Ernest really like, bringing that Whimsicott. If he gets up that Tailwind, it means that at least the speed from the paralysis are negated. But, he still has to worry about something like getting paralyzed. So kind of going into game 2, what would you like to see a lead coming out from Ernest?
Well, I did quite like the trying to set up that Arcanine with Justified. Didn't work out for him in that game, but maybe it would work out if things happen slightly differently, maybe if Thomas switched up his leads, it could be a bit more effective in this game. So maybe trying down that strategy, but of course he does have to, and still does have to worry about Follow Me from Togekiss on Thomas's side of the field, redirecting that beat up and not having Arcanine setting up those boosts. So maybe a little more to do with Arcanine, but he's got to be careful if he does it.
Yeah, so I did think, that Togekiss Pikachu lead worked very, very well for Thomas. So you might kind of want to see, like, okay, it worked for me for game 1, I'm going to try it again in game 2. And if it doesn't work out, I can always try something different going into game 3. Now, going to see that leads, and when we see Ernest switch it up a little bit, he did bring that Domaniton, but no Whimsicott. Instead, we see a Snorlax. Thomas is going to go just for the Togekiss Pikachu lead that worked so well for him.
It did, and really we're going to see Ernest make a decision in this game. Does he attack with the Darmanitan, or does he U-turn out like he did in the last game? In this case, Ernest does have that Snorlax, which is already slow, so less worrying about the paralysis coming out from Volt Crash on Gigantamax Pikachu that Ernest has to do there, with Snorlax already being so naturally slow. But it looks like we're just going to start off with a big Dynamax and likely that Gigantamax Pikachu coming out.
Yeah, we're probably going to see another very cute, big, fluffy Pikachu here joining the field. Gonna go for some more Volt Crashes and show everyone what it can do. Yeah,
it can. And that's the really great thing about Pikachu is it doesn't matter about the speed as well. Maybe Thomas just wants to set up that paralysis on.
Yeah. Togekiss here on Thomas' side going for that Follow Me. Icicle Crash from the Maniton here coming out is now going to be targeting that Togekiss and enough to immediately pick up the KO on this Togekiss here. So Snorlax might be able to just freely go for an attack, but now Volt Crash is gonna come out into that Snorlax, which take that quite confidently, knowing like how bulky Snorlax can be. It's going to now paralyze it, so hopefully for Ernest, his Snorlax is going to be able to move in this turn.
But no, unfortunately, fully paralyzed in that turn. Not the turn that you wanted for Snorlax. Really good KO there on the Togekiss though from Ernest, deciding that this time he was going to just attack and make sure that Togekiss was off the field. So Ernest has made some progress in this turn 1 in a way that he didn't in the previous game. So really good to see there, but unfortunately with that Snorlax being fully paralyzed, we're not going to see anything like a belly drum or any big attacks coming out from Snorlax, maybe a double edge or a body slam coming out to actually start chipping away at this Pikachu and now Conkeldurr that's on the field.
Yeah, this Conkeldurr definitely going to be threatening that Domaniton again, but this Pikachu going for a Volt Crash into the Domaniton, enough to pick up another clean knockout.
Yeah.
And we're going to see Conkeldurr actually not going for a Mach Punch, but instead going for a Rock Slide into that Snorlax. Definitely a good combination. He now has a chance to flinch as well as paralyze, as we do see the Aqua Berry activating on the Snorlax, but we just see it flinch.
Yeah, so that's something that players decide to do sometimes. If you've got paralysis on the field, let's add a flinch chance and make sure that we've got the best chance that we can to stop our opponents moving. Snorlax being naturally slow anyway is quite susceptible to those kind of tactics because, most Pokemon go before it. Whimsicott coming out onto the field here, so we're going to see, unlikely to see a Tailwind coming out from Whimsicott here, especially with the threat of the last and final Volt Crush coming out from Pikachu on Thomas's side of the field. More likely to see it going on the offensive here and going for a Moonblast, trying to damage that Conkeldurr.
Yeah, Snorlax maybe not wanting to take another Volt Crash. Ludicolo instead is switching in here, is going to take its place, and now we're going to see that Whimsicott actually go for that Tailwind. So probably hoping that Ludicolo is going to be faster in the next turn, as another Volt Crash here is coming out onto that Whimsicott. Is now going to paralyze, both that Whimsicott and that Ludicolo going into the next turns.
Yeah, and going to be really vital with that paralysis mitigating the tailwind.
And here Drain Punch coming out from Conkeldurr with a critical hit, actually enough to immediately pick up another clean KO on this Ludicolo.
Yeah, not likely to have mattered. Conkeldurr with that Guts boost is so strong. The likelihood is that even without the critical hit, would have been able to pick up the knockout. And Ernest bringing in his Snorlax as Pikachu goes back into its normal form. Going to be, again, susceptible to that Mach Punch coming out from Conkeldurr on Thomas's side of the field.
Yeah, definitely something Snorlax really has to worry about. Maybe if Conkeldurr runs a little bit of a stronger fighting move, he's probably still going to be outspeeding that Snorlax, just making sure that he does as much damage as he can. And Ernest realizing that there really isn't much that he can do anymore, and Thomas put himself in a really good position.
Yeah, great win there for Thomas. A little bit backwards and forwards in game one, but game two absolutely taking the win and making sure that Ernest didn't have anywhere to go in that game, really utilizing that Volt Crash to fantastic effect.
Yeah, so even though Thomas lost in turn one, immediately hits Togekiss to that Darmanitan, it did mean that he got a free switch into that Conkeldurr and kind of immediately starting threatening a lot of damage.
Yeah, exactly, and that's the thing, you've got to balance when you take the KOs. Obviously, when you're playing Pokemon, the aim of the game is to knock out your opponent's Pokemon, but you have to choose when you do that, because sometimes another more scary Pokemon is waiting in the back, and that's going to be really problematic for you. So you sometimes have to pick and choose, and sometimes it's okay to just go on the offensive, and that's exactly what we saw from Thomas.
Yeah, so he definitely utilized his Pikachu kind of in both games, where he got that Volt Crash off 3 times, and that definitely just kind of meant he really paralyzed Ernest's team, meaning it was a little bit harder for him to move, especially in combination with that Rock Slide from Conkeldurr.
Yeah, very difficult, and even more difficult when your Pokemon aren't moving, right? And we could have seen maybe 2 attacks come out from that Snorlax. If one of them was Belly Drum and the other one was an attack, we're looking at a different game potentially there. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case for Ernest, and it was just absolutely on Thomas's side for that game. So Thomas played really well to take the most advantage of that, make sure he was really going for the win, doing everything he could to stop Ernest moving, and took it to the win in round 8.
Yeah, we now saw a Gigantamax Pikachu on stream win, so definitely proving that even at this high level play, it can do a lot.
Yeah, that's definitely one off the bucket list. And as we cross one off the bucket list, we are going to be going to a short break where we will be back with the winner of that round for a short interview, and then onwards into round 9.
Hello everyone and welcome back. I'm here joined by Thomas, who just won with his Pikachu. So why did you choose to bring the Gigantamax Pikachu to this regional?
Well, I prepared a first team based on Charizard, but from the experience I get from playing online, I had a very difficult matchup, which is Dragapult plus Togekiss plus Excadrill, because I have to guess the item on each Pokemon, of each of these Pokemon, and you can see the weakness policy on Togekiss, which is very popular. You can see it on Excadrill or even on Dragapult, so I think that I had to lose a match, to lose a game to get the infos with this team. So I decided to go back to the Pikachu team that I played on stream a lot. So I'm prepared to many more matchups with the Pikachu team.
Yeah, so now how are you feeling kind of going into the final round? Because if you want to top cup, you're gonna probably have to win out.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure to be in top cut even if I, if I win the next game, sorry, I'm 100% sure to be in top cut, obviously. But if I lose, I don't think so, because I started well, but I defeated Miguel Martí de la Torre the first round, which is a European champion, so such a good player. But unfortunately, he dropped early, so it was not such a good thing to defeat such a good player in the tournament for my resistance, so I can't be sure to be in top cuts, so I think I have to win the next one.
Yeah, I mean, we really saw you dominate here on the field. You use your Pikachu so well. So do you want to shout out anyone?
Yeah, sure. I know there are tons of people in France cheering for me on the stream. I know it already. I don't want to check my phone because I think it will explode. So yeah, shout out to all people watching the stream now and people supporting me during all the year, obviously, and even more when I'm winning that much in a single day.
Yeah, so I hope to maybe see you back tomorrow in this day too. And we're going to go into round 9 quite quickly.